Day Yoga Challenge. My name is Helena, and this video challenge is aimed at those completely new to yoga or early on in their practice. And the purpose of this challenge is to introduce you to some of the basic yoga poses to help you build confidence when you're going into your first yoga classes or practicing at home. So let's get started. We'll start today in a tabletop position, stacking the hands underneath the shoulders and the knees underneath the hips. We're going to begin with doing some cat-cows to warm up the spine. So untucking the toes if they're tucked under and getting a good grip with the fingertips into the mat here, gently sucking the belly button towards the spine. On your next inhale, we're going to draw up with the chest, taking the gaze up, arching with the back. And as we exhale, we're going to be taking the gaze to the belly button. Doing 5 to 6 rounds of this in your own breath. So again, inhaling, taking the gaze up. Exhaling, rounding the back, gaze to the belly button. Having that slight sucking in and doming the back as you exhale. Keeping going in your own breath. Keeping that nice grip into the ground with the fingertips. And maybe going a little bit deeper each time now that the body's starting to get used to the exercise. But of course, still going easy. We're very early on in a practice. Taking another deep round of breath as you move. Gently coming back to that neutral spine. This time we're going to introduce a child's pose. Taking the sit bones down into the heels, walking the hands out until you get that full extension of the arms, and maybe drawing the forehead onto the mat. A child's pose you can come to at any point in the practice, and you'll hear a lot of yoga teachers saying this. It's a lovely restorative posture, getting a good stretch into the arms, into the spine. Taking another long deep breath here. And it's one of those poses you can't really do wrong. On your next inhale, drawing the fingertips back into the ground, stacking the hands again underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. And this time we're going to be tucking under the toes, lifting up with the hips, coming into your first downward facing dog. And starting with our alignment here, so stacking the hands so that they're shoulder width apart, and the feet so that they're hip width apart. Taking the gaze either between the feet or up to the belly button. And having a good grip with the fingertips into the ground. And now maybe introducing some pedals of the knees here, so walking our dog we call this. And remember, you can have your knees as bent as they need to be. A downward dog is more about getting the straight spine going from the head to the hips than it is about getting straight legs. And making any other movements here which feel good for the next few breaths. And see if you can come back to that long deep breathing we were doing in our cat-cows. And then one by one, walking the feet towards the hands. You can bend the knees as much as you need to get there. No rush at all to get there. And when we're almost behind the hands, taking hands around opposite elbow. This one's called our ragdoll. And having a good bend in the knees, maybe rocking the elbows gently side to side. Here we're building more flexibility into the calves and into the hamstrings. And also allowing the head, allowing the neck to relax. If you're a desk worker, we tend to hold a lot of tension into our necks. This is a lovely way to release that tension. But always having that slight engagement of the belly, so sucking the belly button towards the spine. And then on your next exhale, allowing the hands to flop towards the mat, bending these as much as you need to get those fingertips to touch. And then we're going to ripple the body up to standing. And seeing if the last thing can be the head. As the body begins to straighten, engaging the glutes and engaging the core. And allowing finally the head, the neck to roll up. And then taking the feet to the top of the mat, ideally big toes to touch as long as that feels comfortable. And we're going to introduce our Tadasana, our standing posture. Taking the palms facing forward and seeing if you can lift up with the knees. And you'll automatically feel that the legs begin to come engaged. Sucking the belly button towards the spine, gently closing the eyes. And drawing the shoulders a little way back. Taking another long deep inhale here, staying for the exhale. On your next inhale, gently opening with the eyes. Reaching up with the fingertips. Exhale, taking hands back through to heart center. Inhaling again, lifting up with the fingertips. We're getting a nice stretch into the shoulders here. Spiraling the arms. This time, exhale, hands through to heart center and taking a fold. Fingertips might not quite reach the ground perfectly fine, On your next inhale, we're going to be taking a halfway lift. So taking the hands onto the shins, the gaze forward, shoulder blades drawing back, and belly button sucking in towards the spine. Feeling a gentle stretch into the calves and into the hamstrings, but always having a little bit of a bend in the knees. Inhaling here once more. Exhale to drop the hands to the ground, and we're going to be taking the right foot back onto the back of the mat. And you might need 2 or 3 steps to get you there, and that's perfectly fine. And we're going to be coming into a low lunge, a lovely stretch for opening into the hip flexor. So checking in, you can see the big toe poking out. And if you find it hard to balance and you're kind of going a bit wibbly wobbly, maybe moving that left foot a little bit closer to the left top corner of the mat. And finding stillness maybe with your hands at heart center if that feels good. And taking another long, deep inhale here. On your exhale, we're going to use the hands onto either side of that left foot, keeping the knee as bent as you need to as we begin to straighten with this front leg. It never needs to come completely straight. And then we're going to move between these 2 postures. So coming back into that low lunge, feeling a stretch into the hip flexor, and then straightening a little with the leg, feeling the stretch into the calf and the hamstring. Taking a few more rounds of this in your own breath, going as slowly as you need to. Just starting to get used to the postures and the opening into the hip flexor. And then on your next exhale, planting that left foot into the ground and using hands onto either side of the left foot so that you can tuck under with the right toes and take the left foot back to meet the right, coming into a really strong posture, our high plank. So stacking the shoulders over the wrists and drawing the heels towards the back of the mat, sucking the belly button towards the spine. You should start to feel maybe the body shaking and trying to get that straightening into the arms here. Inhaling here once more. And on your next exhale, we're going to lift with the hips, coming back into our downward dog. Maybe pedaling out the feet again, feeling that sensation into the calves, into the hamstrings. And then perhaps for our final breath here, coming into stillness. Bending the knees as much as you need to. Again, walking the feet one by one towards the hands at the top of the mat. Doing so as slowly as you need to. Inhale to take the hands onto the shins, taking the gaze forward, halfway lift, bending the knees here as much as you need to. Exhale to fold. Inhale, fingertips up, gazing up towards the ceiling, a little bit faster than we did last time. Taking the palms through center. And again, coming back into our fold, bending the knees as much as you need to. Inhale to take our halfway lift. Exhale, we're going to use the hands onto the ground again, and we're going to step back with the opposite foot to the back of the mat. And again, maneuvering the feet as much as you need to in order to get that nice low lunge position. And again, if you're feeling a bit of a wobble, maybe moving that foot, the right foot towards the top right corner of the mat. When you found your position, perhaps taking the hands to heart center and begin moving between our runner's lunge. Remembering we never have to have that completely straight leg. In fact, keeping that little bit of a bend in the knee helps to stretch into the belly of the leg muscle. Moving between the 2 poses for a few more breaths, feeling that lovely stretch into the hip flexor. Really good for anybody who does a lot of cycling, a lot of running. Again, using the hands to guide the body back through to center. Before planting that right foot into the ground, taking hands onto either side of the right foot, curling under with the left toes, right foot back to meet the left, coming back through to your high plank, before lifting with the hips, downward facing dog. A final time in our down dog, and maybe this time swinging the hips gently left and right, feeling that lovely opening into the sides of the legs, taking one more breath wherever you're at. Exhale, gently dropping the knees to the ground. We're going to come into a final pose known as Anahatasana, puppy dog pose. So keeping the hips stacked over the knees, we're going to walk the hands out one by one so that maybe we can gently draw the chest towards the mat. It might not come completely there, and that's completely fine. We want to keep those hips raised, so it's different than a child's pose where our hips are down on our heels. Maybe for those who are quite open, you've got your chin on the ground, otherwise maybe the forehead. Taking a few final restorative breaths here. Gently unraveling the body one by one. Coming back through to all fours. And then finding any kind of comfortable seated position which feels good to you. And saying a big well done to yourself for completing day 1 of your 5-day yoga challenge. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.